back to the Maine Art Spirit Studio. Wonderful to have an opportunity to teach kindergarten today. I'm going to show you what we can do with a balloon, and we're going to actually make a bank, a piggy bank. We're going to start by blowing the balloon out. It also helps if you stretch it a little bit, makes it easier to blow up. About that size would be good. And then we're going to tie it up. Balloons can be used as an armature, and an armature is anything that you can actually build on. So this is a great shape for a pig and a great size for a piggy bank. I'm going to show you how we do this. Okay, we want to start with 1-inch strips that were actually cut from colored comic book newspaper, or what we call newsprint. It's actually thicker than the regular newspaper, and it's perfect for making paper mache. And also I have some all-purpose adhesive wall sizing. So we're going to put in the water, about a cup or two of water. Just coat the top of it like that. And then I'm going to bring this together. All right, so we actually start out with a balloon. Make sure you have at least 2 knots in it, because what can happen overnight is air can actually escape through 1 knot. So you want to have at least 2 or 3 to make that really tight. And this is a good size for a piggy bank. And so now we're going to take the newspaper comic strip, and it's a lot thicker, and we're going to put it in our really thick wallpaper paste that we actually made, and squeegee it between our 2 fingers like that, and then place it on here. Now if you need to wipe your hands, wipe it on your balloon. This likes to get away from you, so hang on to it. And one of the things I found helpful is if you take a ceramic bowl or some sort of bowl that you have and put it down and put your balloon in it. It makes it a whole lot easier to work with. So it keeps falling out, and it will, but you can eventually work on it by putting it in that bowl, and it will actually, you know, for a while you probably have to do it up here in the air, but eventually it'll stand in the bowl, especially as it sticks on to the paper in the bowl. The great thing about a ceramic bowl is that it won't really stick to the ceramic bowl that much. So we want to make sure we have a lot of glue on both sides and squeegee it out between your 2 fingers. So this balloon has almost a life of its own. It was wanting to take right off on me. Look at that. All right, so I'll put that aside for now because it's not cooperating. And I'm just going to start to put a lot of these down. And you can crisscross them. It isn't until you have about 3 or 4 of these down that you begin to get a sense that this is coming together. You can go across like that. Your objective today is to cover all of the blue. You don't want to get too wide with your paper, but you can get wide and it will cover. All of this will be good. None of it's a bad thing, except if you get that wide. That would be way too wide as the balloon, and trying to cover it all in one go. No, it don't work that way. You have to kind of crisscross these. So I'm doing one side first. Make sure you put some sort of a plastic down, or even other newspapers down, to, you know, because this gets kind of messy to work with. The thing about glue is if you add too much glue, it doesn't like to stick. If you add just enough, it does, so that's why you need to squeegee the glue in between your fingers. You're kind of sandwiching that glue, and you're putting on a very, very thin coat. And thin coat glue sticks a whole lot better. doesn't have to take a long time before you get it starting to look like it's almost all covered. Let's work on the bottom now. Paper mache is one of those messy things, but it's also, when this dries, it'll be the most awesome surface to paint on because it's all paper. And a very absorbent paper too. The funnies have to be a little thicker because of all the color. And that's what I like about it. There's a lot of color on the newsprint paper. So this kind of paper is called newsprint, and it's made a little thicker so it can handle the color. Like that. Another one like that. You don't want to go too fast because you can get a paper cut. So the first thing you'd want to do is to get a lot of strips cut up ahead of time, because it's going to take about 50 or 60 of these, maybe even more, by the time you get it as thick as you need it. And yes, this is where you can have help from your parents, so you can get help from an adult. And now I think it'll probably stay. Just like that. And like that. Squeegeeing all the time. It's a very old art form. Paper mache have been used for masks. They've been used for, well, banks like this. They've been used for different toys. Sometimes they're used for important products. Lampshades, all kinds of things. It's a very inexpensive way to create something. You can go right over that. We'll look for that later. And sometimes I just want to smear some on there. And I'm looking for any place, where there's any blue showing. And I'm just about finished with my strips, and I'm finished with all of the covering so that I don't really see any. Oh, there's some right there. I'll put some on there. Aha, right there. And then I'm going to take a little bit and just kind of go over and try to flatten all of these caves. That's the first thing you want to do with this first layer, is make them all lay down. One of the things that happens whenever you add water to this kind of paper is that it actually expands. It expands a lot and gets bigger, and because of that, doesn't know where to go. So that's where you come in. You're going to have to sometimes pick things up and make them really super tight. It's kind of like petting your animal, but you're going to put your hands all over this. It's like petting the pig, and you're trying to get it all to lay down as much as possible. Now, if you do have caves like that, it's not a big deal. This is only the first layer. So when you come back, I'm going to show you, I'm going to keep going. You don't have to wait, but generally you could wait till the next day to do another layer. But I'm going to go right into my second layer, and I'm going to make sure I have enough. You can see I don't have a whole lot, so I'm going to cut more strips, come back, and do another whole layer. And there's my first layer. Now the second layer, if you leave it a little longer, or just a little bit, like 5 or 10 minutes, it will start to set up a little bit. And with a real thin coat of glue, it'll actually work better for you. So we'll see you when we come back. As I continue, I've been noticing that this is getting a little heavier. That's how you know that you have enough paper down. You should have at least 2 or 3 layers, 2 or 3 coats of this down. You don't want to only have a single layer, because then it won't be very strong. This should be almost as strong as maybe a 300-pound paper, something that thick. So it should be about a 1/16 of an inch thick, and that's not going to happen with one layer. You've got to do 2 or 3 layers. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just going to finish up on what I had left in the bowl for paper mache, wallpaper paste, and making this the strips I had. You're going to need about 3 newsprint funny comics or whatever from the newspaper. Regular newspaper will work, by the way. It's just that you're going to need a lot more of it because it's not as thick. And this will be a whole lot easier for you to do 3 or 4 layers of this than it will be to do 5 or 6 layers of regular newspaper. And so that's why artists like to use the thicker stock. Also could be advertisements. Anytime you see color in a newspaper, an advertisement for car salesmen or anything like that, their paper is also very good to use. So anytime you see color, it's always printed on a thicker piece of newspaper. And I'm just continuing here, and I'm looking particularly, I'm moving this around on my bowl, and I'm looking particularly for anything that's sticking up, like a little cave, and I'm trying to get it to sit down and to lay down really nicely, and going across and juxtaposing in another direction, like that, and just making this as thick as I can, and using, like I said, about 3 pages of this would be in strips of 1 inch thick and about no more than a foot long. Something like that is pretty much all you'd really, would be really manageable and wouldn't be out of control for you. Something that is 2 feet long can sometimes get a little more unmanageable for a small project like this. And basically use all of your wallpaper paste that you have left, so you don't waste it. Put it right on the project. Keep moving this around. Find those areas that look like they're sticking up. There's a whole bunch right here, for example. I can see some sticking up, and you just want to kind of pet it down. Press down like that, and it creates a real, you'll see by the time you get your 2nd and 3rd coat down, things stick a whole lot better, and there you can get them a lot tighter, and it's starting to look really, really good. I'm almost done here. We got about 5 or 6 more to go, and I'm just continuing to strap this. Press it down real tight. I want a tight stick to this. I want to use all of the glue that I have left over. Well, it was really nice working with you today with this project. We have a good start. We have 3 layers of paper mache over a balloon, and we're going to let that dry. And tomorrow we'll see what we do. Make sure you share, like, or comment. I'd love to hear from you. And my email, if you'd love to contact me, is michael.vermette@iis.bie.edu. And I'll see you tomorrow.